So scary but true. A massive cover-up is underway in our education system across this country. American students fall below grade level standards in huge numbers. But do you hear a lot about it, or does it get swept under the rug? That is the warning from Professor Nicholas Giordano.
We've created a system where we're just cycling students through the system, and that's become one of our biggest problems because we see what's happening. I mean, we are the wealthiest nation. We're the sole superpower of the world, at least for now. How long do you think that's going to be going forward if we don't fix this problem? And what really is mind-boggling to me, and I can't seem to get a grasp on it, is why don't we speak about it as much as we should be speaking? This should be one of the top issues within the country, and yet most people remain silent about it.
Yeah, we've just gone through a campaign process where you heard precious little about this problem in the country. Here now, Nicholas Giordano, Campus Reform Higher Education Fellow. He's a current political science professor at Suffolk Community College in New York. Mr. Giordano, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start quickly by putting this up. This is what you put on the screen when your students start at the beginning of the semester. Who is the Speaker of the House? Which branch of government has the power to declare war? Who's considered the father of the Constitution? And how many Supreme Court justices are there? How did they do on this exam?
Most will fail it. Out of all the students I have, you get about a 10%, 11% pass rate. And then I'll give them the Russian Constitution to see if they could identify that they're not really reading the United States Constitution. And they can't identify that either. They don't see it. So something is broken within the K through 12 system, I noticed, because I've been doing this for the last 12 years, and it really has become a problem that's metastasized. And then I look at the proficiency levels, and they're at absolute historic lows now. But even worse than that, these proficiency levels have been flat for about 30 years. This is the first year we're seeing the decline. At the same time, we've seen standards drop, students reading less, and their grades are going up. So it doesn't really make sense. And all we've done is create a system where we cycle students through so that they get the piece of paper. And this is something that has a critical effect on our nation that we cannot survive. We need a robust public education system. We need it because an education system is designed to give us a sense of civic obligation, to teach us how to be productive members within society and instill some type of human decency. Without it, you don't have a civil society, and that's where we're headed right now. And as the government has expanded into education, as we're pouring more and more money into it, the results are getting worse and worse and worse. But parents have woken up to it.
Yeah, Dr. Jill Biden, the First Lady, is out on the campaign trail today with Randy Weingarten, who we have interviewed many times. We've talked a lot about what happened during COVID and the learning loss that is so dramatic. But what really horrified me when I looked at these new numbers is exactly what you're saying, that where we started in 2019 was already pathetic. It was middle of the road. Like if the score is 0 to 500, we were already at around 235 in these scores. So what is going on here? And what, we only have a few minutes and I want to have you back because I want to dig in on this. What do you think is the solution here? What do we do? This is an emergency.
It is an emergency, and it's actually worse than that because the proficiency levels are between 13 to 25% depending on the subject. And the reality is no other industry you would tolerate that. But here we are. And so what we need to see is
See that again. So American students fall between 13 and 25%.
Correct.
Are proficient
American history,
in math and reading.
Basic proficiency.
Basic proficiency.
So in American history, it's 13%. In reading, it's about 25%. Math, it's about 23%. Civics, it's about 23%. And that's an
Those are all F's,
disaster.
By the way. Those
Correct.
are F's.
Correct, and students are still getting through. That's the amazing part. And so we need to completely revamp the system. I mean, we need to stop with the ideologues controlling education. We need to stop with the bureaucracy pushing the curriculums down people's throats, let teachers develop curriculums that want to teach and actually know what education is about. We need to get parents more engaged, and we need to change the mindset of the student body. And those are just obviously superficial. We could go in depth in each one of those. That would take time. But the reality is what we're doing has been working for over 30 years. We continue to do it. And finally, it's getting some attention that the $1.3 trillion that we're investing each and every year isn't producing the results that you would expect.
You might as well just throw it down the garbage.
Correct.
Really. I mean, one of the things that shocks me is what you're saying. We keep pushing. I heard from 2 different universities this year that they were intaking students who had the highest grade point averages that they've ever taken in. And they were really proud of that. The problem is that it's grade inflation.
Correct.
So during COVID, it was like, oh, you know what, just give him a B, even though he deserves a D. And so now their grades are higher, but they haven't learned the material.
No, and in the 1970s, the average GPA was 2.5. Today, it's 3.1. Even though we have the lowest standards.
There you go. Dr. Giordano, thank you very much. It's great to have you with us. Nicholas Giordano, we'll continue the conversation. Thank you very much,
Thank you for having me.